happened last summer. Me and 3 of my friends, James, David, and William, decided to go camping in a remote area in the mountains. We had heard that the place was beautiful and that there was a lake nearby where we could swim and fish. We packed our tents, sleeping bags, food, and other essentials and drove for about 4 hours until we reached the spot. It was late afternoon when we arrived, and we quickly set up our camp near the edge of the woods. The view was amazing, and we could see the lake sparkling in the distance. We decided to go check it out and maybe take a dip before it got dark. We grabbed our towels and swimsuits and walked toward the lake. It was about a 3-minute walk, and we had to cross a small bridge over a stream. As we were crossing the bridge, we noticed a sign that said, "Private property, no trespassing." We ignored it, thinking that it was probably some old sign that no one cared about. We continued walking and soon reached the lake. It was even more beautiful than we expected, and the water was clear and inviting. We quickly changed into our swimsuits and jumped into the lake. It felt refreshing and soothing. We splashed around and had fun. I didn't see anyone else around, so I felt like we had the place to ourselves. We stayed in the water for about an hour and then decided to head back to our camp. We dried ourselves, put on our clothes, and started walking back. As we were crossing the bridge again, I felt a sudden chill. It was as if someone had turned off the sun and a dark cloud had covered the sky. I looked up and saw that the sky was indeed overcast and a strong wind was blowing. I felt a drop of rain on my face and realized that a storm was coming. We hurried across the bridge, hoping to reach our camp before the rain got worse. But as we walked, I had a strange sensation that we were not alone. Shrugging off the uneasy feeling, me and my friends quickened our pace. However, just as we were about to step off the bridge, we heard a twig snap behind us. Turning around, we caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure disappearing into the trees. It was a person wearing a dark hooded cloak and holding what seemed to be a metal rod. I gasped and felt a surge of fear, so we decided to run back to our camp and get out of there as soon as possible. After reaching our camp, I noticed that our tents were still standing. I breathed a sigh of relief and grabbed our bags. We wanted to pack up quickly and leave, but as we packed up, we noticed subtle signs of someone else having been there. Footprints that weren't ours, a disturbance in the dirt near our tent, and missing items. It became evident that we were not alone, so I wondered if the man was still around. We looked around and saw nothing but trees and shadows. I heard thunder rumble in the distance and saw lightning flash in the sky. The rain started to pour, so we zipped up our bags and ran to the car. As we drove away through the rain-soaked night, we spotted a stranded man standing beside his car, hazard lights blinking desperately in the downpour. Compassion overrode my lingering fear, and I decided to pull over and offer assistance. The man, drenched and frustrated, introduced himself as Mark and explained that his car had ran out of gas. He thanked us for stopping and asked if we could give him a lift to the nearest gas station to fill up a gas can. Without a second thought, we agreed. Mark squeezed into our car, and we continued our journey. The atmosphere inside the car lightened momentarily as we exchanged pleasantries. Mark, seemingly normal and appreciative of our assistance, shared stories about his journey and the misfortune of running out of gas. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I noticed a car tailing us from a distance. 4 hooded figures occupied the vehicle, and dread sank in as we comprehended the gravity of the situation. We were being followed. I was almost sure they were going to try to rob us. After noticing this, I told my friend, James, who was sitting beside me, that I was heading to the police station instead. He nodded. Midway through the journey, after passing by a gas station, Mark began to notice that we were not heading toward it, as he had expected. His demeanor shifted abruptly, and he started getting increasingly aggressive. Quick to react, my friends managed to restrain him, preventing the situation from escalating any further. Despite Mark's protests, we bypassed the gas station and went directly to the police station. Upon arriving, and sensing the gravity of the situation, we obligated Mark to enter the police station. As we hurried inside, breathless and anxious, we explained the situation to the officers. Conveying the imminent threat and the hooded figures following us, we sought their assistance. They took our report seriously, and while they couldn't make an immediate arrest due to the lack of concrete evidence, they assured us that they would keep an eye on the situation, so they let him free. After Mark's release, a car arrived to pick him up. The same car that had been tailing us before, carrying the hooded men. As we watched them speed away, the realization hit us. Mark was not a stranded traveler, but part of a larger plan, perhaps intending to rob us at the gas station, or even worse, harm us. Anxious about the possibility of being followed again, we decided to wait in the police station for a while before considering driving off. Minutes passed, probably half an hour, until finally we realized that the car with the hooded men would not return. We cautiously stepped out of the police station, got into our car, and drove away into the night, heading home. In celebration of our son Nathan's birthday, my family, which includes my husband, our 2 sons, and myself, embarked on a camping expedition, opting for a more rustic experience without the modern camping amenities. Our main objective was to spend the week settled within our trusty car, a reliable sanctuary that had accompanied us on numerous adventures throughout the years. Our destination was a serene lakeside retreat, an annual getaway marked by the contagious excitement of my children, Nathan and Kelly. Both my husband and I shared a deep affection for this tranquil haven, making it a special place for our family. This week-long break from the routine of daily life had evolved into a cherished tradition centered not on escaping reality, but on commemorating Nathan's birthday. On the second day of our stay, the appeal to explore called us into the depths of the surrounding wilderness. An imposing tent, unlike any we had encountered before, stood firm, its imposing presence suggesting more than a short-term occupancy. From within this giant emerged a man of advancing years, his aspect adorned with a scruffy beard, barely peppered with gray. Intrigued by our presence, the man inquired about the purpose of our stay. We happily shared that we were here to celebrate our son Nathan's birthday and take a break from the routines of work and school, a sentiment that resonated with my husband. The man, in response, unveiled himself as a long-standing resident of this remote tent. As our conversation unfolded, his questions went deeper, specifically inquiring about our tent. We confessed to the absence of such a shelter, relying instead on the confines of our car. The man's disbelief was noticeable, and he extended an unexpected invitation, offering the ample space of his own tent for us to share for as long as we desired. After a thoughtful deliberation, we accepted, assuring him that we would make use of his hospitality when the day turned dark. As the day waned, the children jumped in the crystalline waters of the lake, and we kept a watchful eye from the comforts of our car. The setting sun indicated the approach of night, and when the clock neared 9 in the evening, we determined it was time to make our way to the stranger's tent. Along the path that led to our destination, we heard faint rustling footsteps in the nearby underbrush. However, we casually dismissed them as the nocturnal habits of local wildlife. Upon reaching the tent, the man wasn't there. Remaining true to our agreement, we entered it. The tent was equipped with 4 beds. One of them was strewn with a wide assortment of personal belongings, as well as some plastic bags, hinting that it was the designated resting place of the man himself. The remaining beds stood waiting for our occupancy, 1 for my husband and me, and 2 for our children. Adjacent, a portable stove, a makeshift toilet, and a mysterious aperture that led to the tent's rear comprised the only additional features. We settled into our respective beds, each of us preparing for a night of peace. Yet, sleep eluded us. In the stillness of the night, a strange rustling noise pierced the silence, mimicking the eerie crinkling of plastic bags. As I awoke, I noted the conspicuous absence of the man from his designated resting place, and what was even more unsettling was the inexplicable disappearance of the plastic bags that had adorned it earlier. A curious mix of apprehension and unease compelled me to investigate the tent's rearward aperture. To my utter horror, I saw a man carrying a shovel and surrounded by several bags, which by their format, I reckoned that they had human bodies. My heart raced, and I cautiously roused my husband from his slumber. Together, we awakened our children and made a stealthy escape through the main opening. Upon our return to the car, we made a chilling discovery. Our car was full of scratches, and one of the tires had been maliciously stabbed. The authorities were urgently summoned, and the man was promptly apprehended. This story happened 15 years ago, when I was a 9-year-old kid. My mother had this crazy idea that we should go camping for the first time to have some fun and relax. She convinced my father and my grandparents to join us. We packed our car with all the stuff we needed: a tent, sleeping bags, flashlights, a first aid kit, and so on. We drove for hours until we reached a small village by the sea. We parked our car in the village and walked around a mile to the beach, looking for a nice spot to set up our camp, but we couldn't find any. All the beaches were dirty, with trash and seaweed everywhere. The water was freezing cold even though it was summer, and there was no sign of civilization, except for a single van parked in a deserted lot. My parents were upset upon realizing there was a parking lot nearby, and they didn't need to park the car a mile away. Anyway, moving forward, we had to compromise and settle for the least desirable spot, approximately 300 yards from the shore, right next to the parking lot. The day went by slowly, and I was bored out of my mind. I tried to swim, but the water was too cold. I tried to play, but there was nothing to do. At night, things got worse. After we ate some canned food, we crawled into our tent. My grandparents slept in one corner, my parents in another, and I in the middle. I couldn't sleep. The ground was hard and the air was dry. I tossed and turned, hoping for the morning to come. But then I heard something that made me freeze. Music, faint and distorted, but unmistakable. It sounded like it was coming from somewhere nearby, but I couldn't tell where. I wondered how my family could sleep through that noise. I felt a surge of curiosity mixed with fear. I wanted to know what was making that sound, but I also wanted to stay in the safety of the tent. I decided to take a risk and unzip the tent. As soon as I did, the music stopped. I looked around and saw nothing but darkness. It was so dark that I couldn't see 10 feet ahead. I was about to zip the tent back up when I noticed something strange. A streetlight had turned on in the direction of the music. It was the only source of light in the whole area. I don't know what possessed me, but I got out of the tent and walked towards the light. As I did, I heard another sound. A clicking sound. It was rhythmic and constant, like a clock. It seemed to come from behind the streetlight. I was terrified, but I couldn't stop myself. I had to see what was there. I reached the streetlight and peered behind it. At first, I saw nothing, but as my eyes adapted to the darkness, I saw it. A creature, a monster, a nightmare. It was huge, at least 8 feet tall. It was bent over as if it was hiding. It was covered in black fur, or scales, or feathers, I couldn't tell. It had long claws that scraped the ground, and it had red eyes that glowed like fire. That was where the clicking sound came from. It was its eyes, blinking in the dark. It saw me, and it smiled. A wicked smile, full of sharp teeth. I screamed and ran. I ran as fast as I could, back to the tent. I woke up my family and told them what I had seen. They didn't believe me, of course. They thought I was dreaming, or lying, or crazy. They tried to calm me down, but I was hysterical. I begged them to leave, but they didn't listen and told me to go back to sleep. As soon as I laid my head on the pillow, I drifted off. The next morning, I went back to the spot, but there was nothing. There was not even a streetlight there, just on the opposite side. I asked my father about the day before, and he said that he saw me leaving, but thought I was going to the bathroom, so just ignored it and went back to sleep. To this day, I don't know if what I saw was real or just a hallucination. Needless to say, we never went camping again.